Just in terms of background, I think I've got a couple of slides here. I don't know quite how to turn off that camera. I don't think we want to get people dizzy in the audience, but let me see if that works. Is there a way to turn it off?
It's on the big screen here. Just ignore what's on your screen.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so if we can go then to the first slide. Okay, the first slide, I just wanted to give a little bit of a schematic picture of the Adherium digital health platform. The company, if some of you don't know, has been in business for about 15 years. This is a company that's traded on the Australian Exchange. It's publicly listed. We have sites in different areas around the world, but this company has really been focused a lot in digital health, exclusively around asthma and COPD. Headquarters of the company are in Auckland, New Zealand. And as I mentioned, we've got a site here in San Francisco, one in Europe also, a little bit smaller, but here in San Francisco we're setting up that I'll be responsible for and based here in the major market of North America. Looking at the device, you can see that this is at least the inhaler there. The inhaler is a meter dose inhaler and a dry powder inhaler, so we have devices that would fit both of those types of inhalation systems. They're very elegant, they're very well prepared, where you've got a very small device that is either embedded or attached to the inhaler. The sensors within the inhaler then detect movement, they detect time, they detect date, and transfer the information directly to a smartphone, that's an Android or an iPhone, the tablet directly to a computer, and of course, notwithstanding the Smart Inhaler Live Cloud, that's a portal directly from the internet that can be viewed and monitored and developed in such a way so that reports can be downloaded and generated for either the patient, the parents of the patient, if we're talking pediatric, or directly to the physician's office. In terms of intellectual property, I surely won't go into a lot of detail with IP today, but we're talking about utility patents, design patents, and a few method of use patents that are under development, either patents that have been issued or patents that are pending and have been filed so far and internationally. If we can go to the, let's see here, if we can go to the next slide. This schematic here is really the subject of the demonstration. So what you're looking at is what we call our Smart Touch system. This goes around the Symbicort inhaler. We have a fairly substantial agreement that we announced with AstraZeneca at the end of last year. It was just about the same time that we were listed on the Australian Exchange. So we went public, we announced the agreement with AstraZeneca, and of course we have the Symbicort Turbohaler, and we also have the Symbicort meter dose inhaler in development with AstraZeneca and Bevespi and some of the ongoing programs as you move forward. Not just AstraZeneca, but there's also other agreements that we have in place and will continue to develop. But this particular device, and this is the device here you're looking at with the inhaler a little bit blackened, if you will, and inside the device is here. So if we can switch maybe to the camera, give you a little sense of what this looks like. Hopefully it's the same. Okay, this device is very seamlessly operated to attach, and this is an attached, not an embedded, but it will attach to the inhaler. What I'm showing you here on the left side of the inhaler is it's sort of like filament paper, if you will. These sensors are built into the device, but it's like filament paper where you got button presses and button pushing within the paper that activate or deactivate the sensor. So we have ringtones that we can have set up, reminders. There's also down here below, you can see battery operation. Battery is usually 1 year to 2 years, depending on which kind of batteries we're using. On the back side, we've got a linking button. So we're talking about the ability to link with the inhaler and different types of inhalers. And the reminder ringtones that can be at the device or they can be at the smartphone, Android or iPhone. So you've got the device. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but you've got the device here, and you've got a little door. The little door pops open, somewhat like the schematic you saw a minute ago. So you've got the device. The door is open. You can see from all sides. I'll set this down for just a minute. You can see the inhaler. This is a regular meter dose inhaler, not unlike any other meter dose inhaler, but very similar. This is a Symbicort inhaler, and you just place it right in front of it, and it snaps in. Device and inhaler snap together. There's no problem with the door closing. There's no problem with the use of the device in terms of the user interface. In terms of inhalation, there are other devices that we've seen and other systems where you've got either a small problem with the ability to actuate so that there's air flowing through the device and the inhaler, as well as the ability to inhale properly from the inhalation device once the device is attached, inhalation inhaler once the device is attached. So here we've got a device that's attached to the inhaler and all operates very, very successfully, very, very effectively. Not a problem at all. If we can go back to the slides. And maybe go on to the next. Let's see if we can speak to the next slide. Yeah. So this is really then an example of when the system is finally set up. It takes about 10 seconds for the linking to take place between the inhaler device and the inhaler itself. So you've got the linking that's taken place, and then you have the ability to program the date, the time, the orientation, reminders and ringtones, as I mentioned, effective use. So effective use can have to do with audionics. It can have to do with a pressure difference that occurs between inhaling upon actuation and inhaling the drug deep into the deep lung. This is all recorded on the app, as you can see on the iPhone, and that moves also very quickly to the Smart Inhaler Live Cloud that can be, as I said earlier, reported in terms of the physician's office and patients and patients' parents and whoever we would like. So a very, very elegant, very seamless system overall once the inhaler is added to the device. If we can go on to the next slide, hopefully that'll keep. Now, this slide, it's just kind of a little mini case study, a visualization of medication usage by patients. What I really wanted to show here is this is what happens when you're looking at the clinical use of maintenance and rescue medication without digital intervention, and that means without the use of reminders and some of the other attributes that I mentioned with regard to the sensors. It's very irregular, it's very aberrant that the patient that's in this particular study, and this was a series of patients, a fairly large clinical study, where this is not unlike what you saw with most of the patients, where they would have overdosage, they would have underdosage, they would think that they're just fine, not having a problem, and then they wind up having to use rescue medication more often than they need to. So a very irregular, ineffective pattern. When you move to clinical use and maintenance of rescue medication with the smart inhaler intervention, again, this is with reminders, you see nearly perfect. This is Seretide, by the way, or Advair. I didn't mention that a minute ago, but this is one puff in the morning, one puff in the afternoon. So if you're adhering, such the name adherium, if you're adhering to the proper regimen as it's been prescribed, then you can see it's very effective. There's very little overdosage, almost none, very little underdosage, and you have effective disease management. So in certain terms, what you're speaking about here is an inhaler on one side and a disease management system on the other side. And what you've really done here is you've created a closed loop system, and I think that's one of the most important messages here. You're not leaving it to chance. You've got a closed loop system that is very effective in maintaining the proper regimen for the disease profile. We're looking beyond asthma and COPD, but for right now in the near and medium term, this is where we're spending a lot of time and a lot of focus with a series of different types of inhalers and products around, again, not just asthma and COPD, but also a couple of other indications. In terms of accuracy, independent validation, the smart inhaler has been assessed by a series of physicians, peer-reviewed journal articles, and publications are listed down below. 100% accuracy in reminders, foolproof. Every time that this is programmed, it's never had a failure, it's never had a problem. The 97 to 100% accurate in recording device actuations is really coming from sometimes user error, or as you could see, this was very simple and very easy to put the inhaler into the device, but if it's not seated properly or it's left unseated, then the sensor pickup isn't going to be effective. That does not happen very often, but when it does happen, this is why we have a little bit lesser number below 100%. Then in summary, just to take a look at the overall data, and there's a lot more data like this, but this data I think is a nice summary of what the performance of the inhaler is with the use of the device. In terms of adult asthma, increased medication adherence by 59%, reducing the risk of these severe exacerbations. We're really talking about a reduction in burden of therapy when left to chance. So no exacerbations or minimal exacerbations. Emergency room visits, hospital visits, all the rest of these kinds of events are minimized or eliminated nearly completely. In terms of pediatric and adolescent asthma, preventative medication adherence is increased by about 180%. So if you saw that slide a little bit earlier and you're looking at 7 or 8 days of proper use, to go up to 21 to 24 days, you've just increased it by 200%. Rescue medication is reduced by about 45%, and forced expiratory volume in 1 second. Lung function spirometry data looks just outstanding when you're on the disease management profile and regimen, the way that these devices can help the patient behave properly. So I think with that, I will say thank you and
Thank
move
you
on to
very
next.
much. Thank you very much.